All right, so today we are going to be talking about choice boards and HyperDocs, and I put together a little presentation to sort of organize my thoughts here, and I'll be sure to share that out. I'll send the presentation itself to Jody and to Sarah, that way they can post it and send it to everybody. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get started sharing my screen with everyone and showing you this little presentation that I put together talking about sort of the new normal that we find ourselves in and structure of the learning cycle for remote learning and how we're sort of taking the typical way we approach things in the classroom and adjusting it to fit these digital tools and this remote learning time. So typically, if we had a classroom where we have the teachers presenting new information in a whole class setting, and then having the students have the opportunity to practice applying this new information in small group rotations. You know, the teacher can select small groups for mediation, teacher can use that data to support use the data to group the students, and then they go through, they're formatively assessed, that formative assessment helps us regroup, and then at the end we have some sort of summative assessment to be able to judge, okay, what learning happened here, how successful were we? Now, moving forward into where we find ourselves now, with a remote learning restructure, this is sort of a restructure template that I'm offering, that we start by having students engage with and explore new material through a self-paced HyperDoc. This allows for our students to be able to get new material in an asynchronous way because we have limited time when we can get all of our students together synchronously in a live session. Then, after they've gone through that self-paced material, then the teacher schedules a synchronous live discussion, such as on Zoom, and they can explain the material and clarify any unanswered questions that the students have after going through their self-paced learning. Then the students get the opportunity to demonstrate their learning through choice boards for formative assessment, and then the teacher can review and give feedback to these formative assessments. Students are given time to reflect on their own learning, and then a summative assessment to end the year or unit could be based on project-based learning. So let's dive into that, because I know that's a lot. Let's start with this concept of HyperDocs. So HyperDocs, the picture on the right of the screen right now, is showing you how you would structure a HyperDoc using a template of engage, explore, explain, apply, share, reflect, and extend. And some of the icons there on the left are just examples of different tech tools that can be used for this, but there's a wide variety of things. Typically, the engage level is usually a video or an image or a quote or something that's short and is a hook to get the students to start thinking about what is this new material. So it's that engage step. It really is like that hook at the beginning of a lesson. It should be short, it should be to the point, and it should grab the kids in. The explore level is where you're really going to embed curated resources. This is where you're going to put the information that you would typically give to your students, probably in a whole group setting where you are teaching them new material. So if you would have them read an article, watch a video, read a text excerpt, if you want to take pictures from the textbooks that you might be using and scan those into a PDF and have them mark up that PDF file, whatever you would do in the classroom, but in a digital way that they can do on their own. Then you get to the explain level. And this is the area where I would suggest that the teacher schedules a live synchronous discussion over Zoom with their students to talk about what have you learned? What did you think about the engage? What have you learned in the explore? And this is where now the students all come to this session with some background knowledge, and the teacher can talk about it with them. Then we get to that level of being able to apply and share, and I'm going to talk about those together when I talk about the idea of using choice boards there to give them options for their formative assessment. But before I jump into that, I'm going to click on the link I have here in the slide that goes to HyperDocs Co, which is the official HyperDocs website to find templates and examples. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but I just want to tell you what you would find when you go to this website. So first of all, I have already signed up for a free account with them, so I'm going to sign into that. And once I'm signed in, when I go in to check out lessons like what is a HyperDoc, I now have access to all of their materials right now for free. So I can go in and I can check out this section. And for some reason, sometimes when you click on a new section, it asks you to sign in again, which is weird. But just always note, unless you see your name up in the top right, you're not actually signed in. So give me a second to go back. There we go. Now it came to this page. So if I go to what is a HyperDoc, there is some self-paced lessons and even a quiz here. But I want to specifically talk about what is defined here. So they start by talking about what to do in the Explore section. So are you new to HyperDocs, curious about what they are and how they might work in a classroom? Explore the slides below, click through the various definitions of HyperDocs. So I'm just going to show a couple because there's a lot here to explore. So a HyperDoc is an interactive Google Doc that replaces the worksheet lecture method of delivering instruction. It's supposed to include opportunities for all of these things, and that it should be trying to reach all of our learners, and that it can be used by all of these different people, not just classroom teachers, but anyone. I will say HyperDocs are a great thing to leave if you ever know you're going to be absent. So they do a little comparison here between a HyperDoc and a WebQuest. And then they have a bunch of different infographics here. But notice, this is designed as a way for you to go through self-paced on your own and learn about what HyperDocs is. So in a HyperDoc, you would want to give students a way to do this, to go through on their own, self-paced, and get information about a new topic. And then after you've explored, and we get to the explain section, so HyperDocs, a transformative interactive digital lesson replacing the worksheet method of delivering instruction, is the ultimate change agent in the blended learning classroom. Okay, but it's very important to know it's not about teaching technology, it's about using the technology to teach. And then they give a sample here of a HyperDoc, which I'm going to open. So this is the Manifesto HyperDoc. So the idea is this would be a HyperDoc teaching folks how to write your own life manifesto, which is a very deep sort of concept. But let's take a look. The very first thing is engage. So the students would go here to this embedded video. I won't show the whole thing, but I just want you to get an idea.
What do you desire? What makes you itch? What sort of a situation would you like? So I always ask the question, what would you like to do if money were no object?
All right, so as you can see, the total length of this video is just over 3 minutes, and it's meant to draw you in and engage you with the topic right off the bat. And so it's short, but it's also, in this case, it's inspirational, and it's getting you thinking. It's asking questions. And then back in the document, there are tasks on the side of what to actually do with the engaged level. And the engaged level should be very short, very to the point, just getting the students thinking about it. Then in the explore level, notice how there are multiple different resources to explore. So the explore should really be, if you were going to have students go through a variety of different learning stations in the classroom, put all the things that would be in those learning stations in the explore section. and then give them specific tasks for what to do that would make sure that they were responsible for and accountable for that learning. Ideally, this would be great to use in Google Classroom, have them explore the things here, and then in the tasks side, I would link them directly back to Classroom and the specific assignments that they would do. Now, when you get to the explain level, this would be where you would think about what kind of things would be best for a live Zoom session with your students. What could you do with them all together that goes over and builds on what they've already done in the explore. And then this one ends at the apply level, but I do want to go back here and tell you that that's really not where we should stop. We shouldn't stop with the students just applying the learning. They should get the chance to share, meaning they should see each other's work. They should be able to comment on each other, give each other feedback. There's a lot of great tech tools that allow for that. And then a reflection point is really important. Giving them a chance to write about how this experience was in learning. How was this different than the learning they've done normally in the classroom? And then the extend part is technically optional, but the extend could perhaps be when you start thinking about how does this lesson tie into an ongoing project, like for project-based learning, that the students could be working on between now and wrapping up the school year, in lieu of maybe a more traditional summative assessment. So I want to just pause there for a second because I know I was saying a lot of different things. And yes, thank you, Jody, for writing HyperDocs Co in the chat. And I will be sending that slideshow out for everyone to have. So please know that I will be giving you all a copy of that so that you have all the resources. So if you're trying to take a lot of notes, you will get this recording and the slideshow at the end of this. So, but I want to pause for a moment and just see if there's any questions so far before I move into the next section. And if you have a question or comment, you can feel free to unmute yourself and add something if you'd like. Anybody? Just want to make sure. All right. Well, then I'm going to move into the next part of the presentation. And that would be to move on and talk about when you are in that live synchronous, preferably Zoom session with your students, what might that look like? And so these are some infographic resources that come from Holly Clark of the Infused Classroom and Matt Miller of Ditch That Textbook. And so on the left-hand side, you'll see 8 fun activities for virtual learning. These are basically generic things that you can incorporate into a live synchronous session with your students. Some of them are just fun ideas for icebreakers. I would like to say the particular one talking about movie, Netflix type reviews, you could always show some clips from things and have students, you know, vote for their favorite, maybe do a writing assignment about, you know, which one they thought was the best. You could find clips that are related to the particular topic you're doing. But then also on the right-hand side is 12 ideas for using video conferences with students. So for you to really think outside the box, besides just whole class instruction, you know, what else could you do in a live synchronous session? Do you perhaps want to schedule one with a small group of students rather than with everyone at once? Do you want to use that as a time to follow up on assignments that might be missing? Do you want to give the students a chance to present when they're live with each other? Lots of different things you could be doing. Do you have the ability to bring in someone virtually as a guest speaker? Because remember, right now, it's maybe a lot easier to get somebody who's available to talk to your class online than it would be or would have been to have them actually physically come to your classroom. Do you have other friends who are teachers either in your building or in another building who you want to collaborate with? Have like a group discussion between your students and theirs in which you both sort of moderate it. Lots of different things you could do. You could also just have it as a generic sort of office hours kind of thing where you say, students, I'll be on. Come on and ask me your questions. What do you need? What are you working on? You know, very informally sort of check in. And then we get to the fun part, which is now that we've gone through and we've given the students this great HyperDoc where they can go and they can self-paced go through a lot of this learning. They've come on a Zoom, we've checked in, I've clarified things. Now I want the students to go apply their learning. I want to formatively assess what's going on. So maybe now I want that apply level, and I'm going to combine it, that apply and share level of the HyperDoc. Perhaps I want this to be an embedded choice board activity. And why might I want to do that? Well, because it's student-centered learning. The students choose how to demonstrate their learning in a modality that they are comfortable using. But you, the teacher, limit the amount of choices so it's not overwhelming. And then you ensure that each choice includes a rubric so expectations are clear and uniform. On the right-hand side here is a picture of a tic-tac-toe choice menu that is freely available from Shake Up Learning. So I'm going to click on that link first. Now, Shake Up Learning, Casey Bell, she refers to her choice boards as interactive learning menus. But whether you call it a learning menu or a choice board, it means the same thing. The idea is that it's all about choice. It's differentiated learning because they get to choose the style and the medium. And what's great is that these can be used with any age group, as long as you control the amount of choices and you make the choices things that are applicable to the age group you're working with. For example, if you're working in K-2, you might only give 3 choices so as not to be incredibly overwhelming. But I would say even the biggest choice board I've ever seen really should only have maybe 9 or 10 as the absolute max, because too many choices leads to what happens when you go to a restaurant and the menu is way too big and it's just too many options, and so you just end up going with the thing you always order because there's just too many things to look at. And they obviously can be used in any subject area. She specifically says, and I love it, addresses are learning menus and HyperDocs the same thing? No. So a learning menu or a choice board can be a part of a HyperDoc assignment, which is what I'm talking about today, but they are not the same, because a learning menu is about giving the students choice of a particular modality to demonstrate their learning, whereas a HyperDoc is a complete packaged assignment that also meets some additional criteria. So a HyperDoc does not have to include choice, but it could. And she, of course, suggests to go to HyperDocs website if you want to learn more, which I've already shown you part of. And then she offers some blank templates here if you want to use her tic-tac-toe template for making a learning menu or a choice board. Now, I will say I want to offer one other suggestion for what I think is even better for interactive choice boards as a template, is to use Google Slides. And I hope you'll see why in just a moment.
In this video, I'm going to show you a pretty neat trick that allows you to create interactive slides in Google Slides. There are a lot of potential uses for this, so for now, let's take a look at how I've used it to create a digital interactive choice board. So basically, I have my main slide set up here, and each of these text boxes links to another internal slide. And then I have a link down here, which takes you home. You can download this template for free on my blog. I will link that in the video description for you. But if you want to make your own or just learn how it works, here's how. To start, you can see that I have my internal slides along with my main slides set up here. I'm going to title this first slide right here. I'll just type task here for now, and I'll come back to the main slide and do the same thing. So I'll just type whatever title I want, then highlight the text, right click, select link, and then slides in this presentation. And here's where you can select the slide that you want it to link to. So I'll select type task here, click apply, and I'm good to go. So just for good measure, let's do that one more time. I'm going to just title another slide, type another task here, then come back to my main slide and do the same. and then right mouse click, select link, and then slides within the presentation. And you can see that the new title I added is right here. So that's how you link internally within Google Slides. If you have one of my choice board templates, you can see that I've already done the linking part for you. So now all you have to do is add your own content and change the text titles. To do that, just click the text once and then select edit link and just change the text to whatever you want it to say. And you can see that if I click apply, the link will remain. So if you edit the text this way, it will keep all of the same links, and you just have to, like I said, add your own content and you are good to go from there. So as you can see, being able to link internally within Google Slides is pretty simple and has a lot of neat uses, like this digital choice board, for example. You can grab these templates and a few others on my blog if you're interested. And as always, if you found this video helpful, please subscribe to my channel and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about using digital choice boards or about Google Slides in general.
Okay, so hopefully you noticed that in her sample of an interactive choice board using Google Slides, she had the main page with all the different choices, and then when the students clicked on the choice, it took them to the appropriate slide that had the content. Now, she was using those choice boards as a way to give them a choice of different videos to watch for the learning of new content. But I would also like to talk about the idea that you can create an excellent choice board as an option for ways for students to demonstrate the learning. So you could have one option that is primarily a read passage, answer questions. You could have another that is to write out in long form, like an essay or short response. You can have an embedded flip grid for students to record themselves talking about a prompt and have each other see it. You can have one of the options be for them to create their own Google site, or to use Book Creator or Seesaw or lots of other different digital tools to actually create and apply their knowledge. And then a lot of those tools already have the built-in feature to share it out with each other, or you can share it together by putting it all in a shareable slides. And even Google Slides themselves could be what the students use to produce something. So just because you're using slides as a way to transmit information doesn't mean they can't also use slides as student creators to show what they're making. Or they could make their own learning videos. So if you've learned about using things like Screencastify as a screen recorder, students can use that as well. And they could make their own learning video where they talk to the screen and they tell you about what they've learned. And maybe they show some images and pictures and slides, and they narrate it and share it, and you put it in a platform for them to see each other's and make it into a sort of gallery sharing opportunity. And there's lots of different ways to do that. And if you're thinking right now that those are so many different options, and where do I start? How do I put these things together? This is where Matt Miller from Ditch That Textbook is really going to help us, because he has a great suggestion about using templates. So right now, Matt Miller of Ditch That Textbook is offering a full remote learning course online. And I want to show you part of that course because it is freely available. And I want to show you one of the videos that I watched from him that is in his module talking about using templates to design remote learning lessons. Meaning, you're working remotely, you need to get things to your students, but where do you go to find these resources online, and how do you take a template that already exists and personalize it and make it your own? So I'm going to let him talk about it because he is truly an expert in this field.
There's one thing that I think that us as educators that we can add to our remote learning tool belt. It can help us a lot. It can create great activities, and it can save us a ton of time. And that one thing is templates. So here's what I mean by that. templates, at least the way that I'm going to refer to them, are documents of some sort. They could be in a standard, Word document or Google document. They could be in slides. They can be in spreadsheets even. And these are the kinds of things where we create a learning activity inside of one of these files and give students specific tasks that they're supposed to finish inside of it. And then we make it available to students. We make a copy for everyone. Everyone has their own copy, and then they turn it in. It's pretty easy to do. And there's a wide variety of templates that are already out there. You can go pay for a bunch of them on Teachers Pay Teachers if you really want to, or you can make some of your own. Or at the end of this video, I'm going to show you a bunch of templates, pre-created templates that we've already got at Ditch That Textbook that you can go access for free. So with that in mind, I wanted to give you a quick walkthrough on how to create a basic template. And then I also encourage you to check out the resources in this lesson. We've got lots of stuff related to how to make templates, how to make them effective. I've also got lots and lots of examples and things that you can make a copy of and assign to your students. So number one is just to decide what you want on your template. Think through, what is it that you want your students to do? Do you want them to recall some information? Do you want them to have a certain thought process? Do you want them to think about something, brainstorm something? Whatever it is that you want them to do, that's of course the most important thing to think about at the beginning, is to figure out what it is that you want them to do, and then what do you want to go on your template. So if you can sort of start to picture in your mind, what are the steps you want them to take, or what's the action you want them to take, or what's the thought process you want them to go through. If you can start to articulate that, you're well on your way to creating your template. Number two is to choose an app to create your template. Now, I mentioned a handful of them at the top of this video. If you're using Google tools, then Docs, Slides, and Sheets are good places to go. If you're using Microsoft tools, then Word and PowerPoint and Excel are good ways to go as well. Although there's lots of other ones. In fact, if you use Microsoft, OneNote could be a place where you could even make some templates work. For me, it's always been the slide programs. So in Google, it's Google Slides. In Microsoft, it's PowerPoint. I like those because you can create some really good templates that aren't just linear text like they are in a document. Students can add text as well as pictures and shapes and lines and all sorts of things and put them anywhere on the page. So I think it gives some more flexibility there. That's why I like that one. There's a bunch of other tools that you can use beyond those productivity tools too. Things like Seesaw. You could even use something like Flipgrid, where you give them specific things that you want them to work through. There's Buncee, there's Adobe Spark. There's all sorts of things that you can use to do templates. If you're looking for something simple, remember in an earlier video, we talked about keeping things simple. Using a slide presentation tool, that's probably something that students have used before, so you might consider using that. Number three is to design the parts of the template that students won't change. Now, these next few steps are the ways that I design a template in Slides or PowerPoint. So just keep that in mind as we go through this part. So there's a reason that I'm doing this part first. So I sort of imagine what it is that I want students to do. And then I put all of the parts onto it that I don't want them to change. So imagine I'm doing something as simple as a basic Venn diagram. And so with the Venn diagram, I'm going to put a title up at the top. I'm going to put a little bit of instruction down below, and then I'm going to have the two overlapping circles. Those are the parts that students won't change. They don't change the title, they don't change the instructions, they don't change the overlapping circles. That stuff all needs to stay. And so I'm going to design that first. Now here's why I design it that way. Number four is to lock them in the background. Now if you're using Google Slides or PowerPoint, there's a way to do this. And so the reason that we did what we did before is so that we could do this step. We designed all of the things that students aren't going to change. Again, the title, the instructions, the overlapping circles. What I'm going to do once that part is done is I'm going to go download that slide as an image. So, that may be under the Save As feature. It might be under File, Download As. Either way, if you save it as a JPEG, if you save it as a PNG, there's different file formats. This part really, really doesn't matter. But if you save it as an image, think about it. An image is something, a picture file is something that you can't move around. Everything is locked into place, right? Here's why we save it as an image. Number 5 is missing. Oh, okay, so lock them in the background. This part was supposed to, I'm just gonna leave this part in the video. So part of locking it into the background is taking that image that you just saved. Remember you took the slide and you saved it as an image? Set it as the background image for your slide. So a lot of times there is a button that says change background. And so if you change the background and you set it as that image, think about that. The title, the instructions, the overlapping circles, those are all saved as an image. And so if they're set as the background image, students can't really change those. So when you lock those in the background, that keeps them from accidentally moving something or changing something. So good stuff. Now, number 5, add the parts that students will change or will write on. This could be as simple as providing text boxes where you want them to write text. You could even put some clickable, draggable shapes with some words in them. You could have a little pointer so that they drag an arrow onto a picture and show you what they're supposed to be identifying. Lots of things that we can do with that, but that's the next part, is to put that editable stuff on there. Then once you're done, you share the template with your students. So you've got this file that students can work with. Now, I found that the easiest way to distribute it out to students is whenever you create an assignment, whether you're using Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams or another learning management system. What you do is you create an assignment, you pull that one file, and then you make a copy for each student. Now, as you see in this screenshot, I'm showing you where, and when you're creating an assignment, I'm showing you where you can hit that make a copy for each student. You've attached the file and there's a little drop down. Depending on your learning management system, whatever it is that you're using, there's probably a feature here. If there's not, you can always attach a link to that template file and set the sharing settings as view only. And then when students click that link, they can open up that file and go to File, Make a Copy. And then they're going to make a copy of it, and then that's their own copy that they can work from. That's not your copy. So that's one way to do that as well. So students get their own copy, and then they work on the work, and then they turn it in, and then you grade it. Now, when we do these, here's an important thing to think about when we're making these templates. The goal shouldn't be to recreate paper worksheets. It shouldn't be to just say, okay, we had this one worksheet, and on this worksheet, they're going to match these things, and they're going to fill in the blank on these things, so I just want another version of that. The goal should be to take that screen, to take that template, and make it this interactive activity where students can do more than just write in a letter or write in a word or write true or false. So that's my encouragement. That's my challenge for you when it comes to making these templates, is think of a way to make them a little bit more interactive. I mean, we have these digital devices that cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, and hopefully they can be more than just, you know, a digital photocopy machine. We can use them to engage students a little bit more and in different ways. So I mentioned resources. We have lots of downloadable templates that I've created with different blog posts throughout the years. We've got them all in one place. So just head to ditchthattextbook.com/templates. And then there's also this one blog post. There's several blog posts. You ought to check them out in the resources in this lesson. But there's this one. This one has been pretty popular over the last year or so. 20 free Google Slides and PowerPoint themes for teachers, plus lesson ideas and activities to use in class. So these are downloadable templates, and then they've also got suggestions for how you can use them with your students. And you may have noticed at the end of each one of these lessons that I suggest that you sign up for the Ditch That Textbook newsletter. And when you do that, you get these 3 free ebooks. And one of them
Okay, I'm gonna pause there for a moment. I will say that in the slideshow I'm going to send out is the link to that entire course that Matt Miller's offering right now on remote learning, completely free. And I highly suggest you sign up for it because it's free and you can pick and choose which of the lessons you'd like to look at. So if you were maybe noticing while this video was showing, I'll open it up again. On the side here are all the different modules. The one I was just showing is called How to Use Templates to Design Remote Learning Lessons, but there's a bunch here. I've already watched, as you can see, the ones that are grayed out about setting up or optimizing your workflow, using your learning management system effectively, designing lessons, setting up video calls with students. So there's a lot of great content here. Obviously, I don't have time to show all of it, but this is all available through teachable.com, and it's a self-paced course, and you can pick and choose what you want from it. There's a lot of great free content on Teachable right now. Holly Clark of the Infused Classroom, who teams up with Matt Miller quite a bit, she has a lot of great free classes on there as well. Obviously, this is all going to be sent out to you, but if you're interested in opening any of that right now as I'm talking, that's teachable.com, and you can look for Ditch That Textbook. You can also search for Infused Classroom. Shake Up Learning, another person I referenced today in this presentation, also has teachable courses online. I'm registered for a bunch of them, some free, some paid, but really great, excellent resource, great stuff to go, and a lot is available for free right now because everyone understands that it's all hands on deck during this remote learning. Let me pause again and sort of wrap this up and see if there are any questions from anyone, any comments, anything you want me to go over again. If you want, you have a couple of opportunities. You can just unmute yourself if you want, or type a question in the chat.
Report, I go in and assess the patient is having trouble breathing, and maybe within a few hours that patient's on her bed. Despite the long emotional days, Patty says.
So does anyone have any? Oh.
Hi, Megan. Thank you. So I'm thinking about the choice boards, and do you have, I know that you gave some suggestions on where to find information on them, but do you have any suggestions as to templates on how to create them, so that, are there choice boards like tic-tac-toe boards out there that they can just pull up and is a template that they can fill in?
Yes. So I will say one of the ones I did show here, and I will go back and open this up, is on Casey Bell's Shake Up Learning website. She gives a blank tic-tac-toe template where you could open this up and you could save this to your Google Drive. Just give it a second to open. And teachers could fill this in however they'd like. But you can also find ones that are pre-made if you'd like, and then just edit them and make them fit your needs. I would say that it's always great to take a look at samples that people have to sort of get some ideas of what kind of things you might put in a choice board. And again, those are just a few people I've named that have great templates. Holly Clark, Casey Bell, Matt Miller, all the folks that we've talked about in this discussion. But again, too, if you might already have different places you like to go for resources. I like that Matt Miller even just says, you know, a lot of people have Teachers Pay Teachers accounts, and they might have something on there that they really like, that they want to download and use as a template, and that's totally fine. I think the key thing when designing the choice board template in particular is to think about not overwhelming students with too many choices, and making sure that the types of choices you have reflect different learning modalities, so that students who are more comfortable writing can write things, students who are more comfortable being verbal can record themselves, different options.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. One of the things that, so yesterday we in one of my meetings, we were talking a little bit about how choice boards, how we can start slowly by introducing choice boards. And one of the things we were talking about is taking vocabulary words from, say, science, social study, whatever, spelling words, and kind of creating a choice board based on that, just that, so that you can get used to the process. And one of the, if you look up, you know, tic-tac-toe choice boards for vocabulary or something like that, you get a ton, even from Pinterest. And they have some great ideas and different ways to show them. Create flashcards, find some image, do a scavenger hunt for images, just all different, use them in a sentence if you know, if you have students that really focus on that. So there's different different ways to work with this slowly. So I just wanted to make sure, you know, that we're looking at it. You know, if you're hesitant because it seems overwhelming, you can use it in little bits and pieces, even for spelling words. So think of it that way as well. For instance, Megan, do you mind if I share a screen real quick?
Sure. But before you do that, I just want to add too that when you're thinking about starting with a choice board for the first time, think about the tools at your disposal that you already know and are comfortable with, and think about having a mix of tech and non-tech options.
Right.
So even though students are working remotely, they still could, even if they did something with paper and pencil or crayons or markers or whatever they have at their disposal, even with just a parent's cell phone, they could snap a picture of it and submit it. So it doesn't mean that it has to be all tech. I just wanted to make sure I put that.
No, that's great. That's great. And I just wanted to just quick show that, I mean, I just looked for vocabulary word study, tic-tac-toe choice menus, and this is what came up. And then you can change this, of course, in any way you want, but I just wanted to show everyone just how simple it is to kind of look for templates and find them pretty quickly. They're kind of all over Google. So if you look at them that way, you can see, and a lot of them will, like Megan said, and talked so beautifully about, as mixing, you know, the content with tech. So it's pretty easy to find them out there. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, you don't have to try to reinvent the wheel when you're, you know, when we're first starting out. We certainly can use what's out there.
Yes, definitely look for templates that already exist, take them, download them, edit out certain things to make it your own if you'd like to, but really there's great stuff that exists out there and there's no reason not to use it. So
yeah.
All right, well, thank you all for being here. This has been really fun. I hope this has been helpful. Again, once I turn this video off, the recording will be downloaded and I can share it out with you, and you'll also get the slides and everything from today.
Well, thank you, Megan. We appreciate you spending time